Got some pretty hefty bags under my eyes today. It's a product of getting older and not getting enough sleep. I wonder why I'm not getting enough sleep. It's so weird how, like, stress just infiltrates every little area and aspect of your life. Including your dreams. You ever have that where you're like, I don't need to, like, live out this like insane existence while I'm awake and then go to sleep and have it be even crazier. Being a human is so weird. Super weird. It's so nice when you're just like a different species and you're like, I've got one job. I'm a squirrel. I gotta find a nut. I gotta friggin' bury it. I'm like, I gotta eat, and then I have to reproduce, and that's it. Like, and then I just kind of like play and screw around for the rest of the day, you know. Man, I miss just like being a kid or something, I guess. I don't know. Maybe I miss being a squirrel. Used to be a squirrel, and now I'm a human. It's worse. We are not the apex around here. We are actually really screwed. I'm pretty sure we're like so vulnerable we can't even like, this is like the beginning of the bottleneck effect. And I'm so negative right now. I'm sorry, you guys. I probably shouldn't be putting my negativity out in the world. This is quite a contrast from life coach Lydia, who was like, everything's going to be fine if you manifest it correctly. Okay, the one thing about human beings is like our humor. I mean, animals are pretty funny too, but that's just because like we think they're funny. I don't know if they laugh. They probably do. Whales like play and stuff. I don't know if they have like stand-up comedy like deep in the ocean though. We have stand-up comedy, and that's like a huge gift. Speaking of, I went to the Dave Smith show a month ago, and it's the second one I've been to in Detroit, and I don't know, I super appreciate the kind of humans who have figured out how to navigate all of the ugliness and turn it into something that can make us chuckle, and I'm like, if only I could do that, and I think I do. Sometimes I do that. And I try to do it better. I'm gonna try my best to do it better. I don't know how all the time, because it gets so like kerfluffled. I get myself into just such a kerfluffle sometimes, and I can't make it funny. But I always can. I can't. So something funny to talk about today, as I bring you with me on my little forest journey here, is I woke up, I flipped on the internet, and my YouTube algorithm feeds me a lot of this stuff from something called Breezy Politics. Okay, so it's like little clips and segments, and they're very powerful packed punches of like truth. And this was like a real old interview with somebody from back in the 70s, and actually it was the Shah. The Shah from the 70s was being interviewed from an American journalist or a British journalist, maybe, I don't remember. And it pauses right at the segment, like my phone like freezes, right? Like right at the segment where it says that the Jewish lobby is controlling many things. It like stopped right there, and I was like, obviously, like, okay. Are they freezing my phone and making sure I know they're controlling many things? I don't know. That was just a funny thing. Like, it's just hilarious. I don't know why these things are funny to me now. It's probably because I got dragged through hell last year when I was definitely being controlled. And I do need to talk about that in some sort of a coherent way. And I seeded that conversation yesterday because I started sharing my thoughts about who killed Sam Woll. And at the end of the day, I know who killed Sam Woll. It was a demon. A demonic enterprise came into someone's body and they murdered my friend. They murdered our delightful human being whose name was Sam, and she was wonderful. And they did it in a tragic, horrible, violent way. And I'm so sorry I can't just like put this thing to rest and leave the violence behind. I'm so sorry. I would be able to if like the person who's misfortune of, you know, having that happen to them could just come forward and confess maybe twice that they did it, that they didn't mean to do it, that they weren't awake and aware that they did it, but like they did, you know. Okay, so here's what I have to say about that. I had the same thing happen to me last year. You know, for a period of about 3 months I was in a very serious battle within my own self to gain my agency back. And I can't even with all of my language arts degrees and all the words I've been taught to use, like I can't completely give a very thorough and clear explanation of it, but I'm gonna try my best because I know I'm called to, I'm supposed to do that. I've known that I was called and supposed to do that since the beginning, since I started getting my agency back. The mission was clear. Okay, now you have it. Now tell the world how you lost it and tell them how you got it back. So I'm doing that. You know, I'm going to have to do it. And it's really uncomfortable. And then maybe once I do this, I can finally put it all behind me and move on and feel finally something like I did everything I could do. You know, I don't know. I don't know if that's what's going to happen. I have no idea what's going to happen because I don't have a crystal ball. I don't do that. I don't do like, you know, peering into the future to see how it looks. Like, it's not mine to do. We're not supposed to do that. I think that one's called divination. The book keeps teaching me over and over again about all of these things that I got myself into, all these spiritual portals that I opened. The book, the great book called the Bible, says, don't open the portals. Don't. Just don't. And little old me, like, was like, well, I'm doing this, and I had no idea that the Bible said not to, you know, because I didn't read it. I read the New Testament when I was younger. The Old Testament was a little bit daunting. Makes sense. It's a pretty daunting book. But if you read the Torah, you know, every single page, one after another. You're worshiping a false idol. You're opening portals to the demonic realm. You're doing all of these things, and there are consequences. Deeply scary, violent consequences. So, I had some consequences. You know, I opened up some portals. They looked really shiny. I thought that was exactly what I was supposed to be doing because I was accepting the status quo. And the status quo at the time was definitely manifestation. It was definitely like using means of divination, of idol worshiping to gain myself power, to gain myself comfort, to gain myself access, you know, to a beautiful life, a privileged life. And I really don't know if anybody would have caught on to that at the time. I don't know if anybody like saw it that way, but that's how I see it now. And I'm sorry. You know, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry to God. I'm sorry to the people who may have followed along in my footsteps and been like, okay, I'm going to read the book she says, and I'm going to, you know, purchase the life coaching packages she has to sell, and I'm going to do all this stuff because Lydia's like articulate and a leader, and I'll follow her into some dark night. And I don't know what other thing to say other than just, I'm very sorry. I'm sorry to God, and I'm sorry to anybody out there who may have listened, you know? And here's another thing I'm super sorry for. I'm sorry for anything I say now or in the future that's misleading, that leads people astray. And I'm pretty sure it's going to happen, because it's just like one of those things where when you live the human experience, when you live it imperfectly like I do, you just do that. You just make mistakes. And so here's the solution. Like, what's the resolution for that? Don't follow me. Maybe listen to me and think about some of the stuff I'm saying, but like, don't follow me. Follow God. You know, follow the Bible. And don't follow the Bible as I interpret it even. Like, I'm not a scholar. I don't have the equipment for that. Just, I don't know. Again, second day of recommending that, like, you follow this dumb girl who's got obviously a whole bunch of, like, inequities, whatever, shortcomings, and go to an Orthodox church, you know? I can't make a personal recommendation to going to any Protestant churches, because I don't think that you would be necessarily better, like, led through the process of the great mystery of your faith when you follow a Protestant, because Protestants were formulated from the great schism between the Catholic Church and the Orthodox Church happened in, I think, 1400s. The Great Schism, and then from there, the Martin Luther Reformation formed the Protestant movement, and it's just been like a whole lot of fracturing from there. So you can walk into any church and follow the interpretation of the Bible, and it's sort of a free-for-all, and you kind of get whatever you get, you know? I don't want to go through it that way. I want a council of elders who hold this stuff together and have the authority to tell me yay or nay on things. And so far, everything that they believe that I've learned about, you know, validates that, like, absolutely we're in a spiritual warfare here. Absolutely we're facing evil all the time. We can't see it, you know, until it manifests into this horrible, ugly violence, you know. Before it does that, though, it definitely manifests into something pretty. So watch out for deception, you know, don't be deceived. And so, okay, what do I want to talk about today in addition to all of this? I want to talk a little bit about power and control. And my mom, one of the main things that she contributed throughout my life was an ongoing phrase that sort of helped her navigate a very, very violent situation that she was in with my first stepfather. Her second marriage was the cycle of abuse is about power and control. She used to say that a lot, even when I was little, and I didn't really know what that meant, you know. I still don't know if anybody really knows what that means, because at the core of it is something very deep, probably ancient before we were even here, and it's a human condition, or maybe it's not a human condition, maybe it's like a satanic condition that basically seeks to strip away free will. And I think, this is going to move me probably to some emotional state that, like, this is why we can have faith in God. We can have faith in something greater than us, because that creator would never, will never, is incapable of taking free will away from us, So anytime you feel that your free will is being, stripped, whether it's slowly or quickly, trickles of oppression, or, acute states of oppression, be very cautious of either. Be very mindful that that is not of God. God can't be that way. It's not. It's paradoxically impossible. So I've found myself at times like really wishing that I didn't really have any free will, even recently, even in like kind of conjunction with a conversation I had yesterday. It's just like, take my will, God, and do away with it. And okay, so there's a couple of things about that. My will in my design is clearly, it's full of shortcomings. It's full of short-sightedness. It's maybe based on a pure intention and wanting to make things better, but God's design and God's will is obviously going to be something that is going to be much better. His perspective is much larger. His design is much more perfect. So, what do I do with my free will? I say my free choice is to trade it, my free will, my design, my willingness is to trade it up and to say, thank you, God, for my ability to design. We're made in the image of God. So by nature, we're creative. We want to design things, right? And that's not an evil thing. However, for whatever reason, we're vulnerable to something dark. We are vulnerable to a satanic, demonic, dark energy, especially when we don't follow the process and we don't follow the book and we go it our own way. Man, I don't want this thing to turn into some preachiness. That's probably why I've tried really hard to show you guys how messed up I am. I'm just out here being a sinful person. Like I'm trying my best and I'm failing. But there's got to come a time in every person's life, and hopefully before they die, where they just kind of have to say, okay, enough's enough. I need to figure out how to protect myself and the people around me from forces of darkness. And this is how we do it. We say, Holy Father, may your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And I don't know. I still don't always know. I still don't know. I still don't know the clarity of what God's will is for my next move, except for to be in this forest and talking to my phone about this very topic and pray that it inspires somebody and Pray that it inspires me. Pray that it gives me the clarity I need. You know, we need restorative justice. We do. We will ultimately receive it. We will. It'll just be some amount of time from now. But in the meantime, being in the image of God, we have a duty and a responsibility to break down the shackles of oppression, the systems of oppression, the systems of power and control, starting within our own selves, extending to our friends and family, and then to our systems that run our society. And from my purview, I can't see anything that is more oppressive, more dangerous than our incarceration system. And I mean, I can't like pick enough passion projects. Like I can't freaking like, you know, I can't tell you how many things there are out there that I care about, that I want to see changed, and I want to put my like talent and time into changing. But like, I guess right now with my voice and my energy, this is the one. And I want to talk about the fact that clearly somebody who didn't kill Sam is in jail right now. He's in an incarceration system made up of just lies and oppression. There is no restorative justice within these systems. There is no purpose beyond power and control. There isn't. You say maybe that it's about containment, contain these people away from society. Well, if everybody who is guilty of making mistakes had to be contained, we'd all be in boxes. So, what do we do? What do we do instead? This is kind of fun. This will like cheer us up. Let's cheer up the topic a little bit. Let's bring in a little bit of light and cheerfulness. So back when I was in college, I studied elementary education in addition to my like language degree, which was like made up of a lot of linguistics, critical thinking, media studies, stuff like that. But in addition, it was like teaching children how to critically think, analyze information, how to read. And I got locked in a box in my dorm room at one point during one of my courses. It was called Young Adult Literature. I had stacks of young adult literature that I had to read throughout the semester. And they were just sitting there in my dorm room, like, waiting for me. And I remember, like, crunch time came, so I had, like, a week left. And I just, like, sat there and did nothing except for read books. Like, exceptional, like, very influential, powerful children's literature or young adult literature. And I remember reading the book Because of Winn-Dixie by Kate DiCamillo, I think. Because of Winn-Dixie. You know, they made it into a movie. It's a famous story. So, you know, we get so, like, compartmentalized in our lives, and we're trying to be busy and get stuff done, and, like, especially when you're a college kid and you've got, like, so many things going on and assignments you have to finish. And I'm sitting there reading this book amidst all of the stuff I have to do, and I'm just forced to pause, right? I'm just, like, locked in a little room, and I gotta get it done. And I wept. I sat there reading this book, and it broke me. It broke open my heart. Like, it broke open my mind. This children's book about a dog and a girl and her dad. Like, who knew, that something like that could just, like, crack the code? But I realized something in that moment that, like, I'm pretty sure my professor was trying desperately to teach us. And that is, like, hey, if we don't figure out how to teach kindness and empathy to our children, we don't have any hope. So how do we do it? Write it down. Write it down and share it. Write down the stories. Write down the things that break your heart open. Speak the things that break your heart open. And disseminate broadly. So, I remember I was waltzing around in 2018 or 17 or something in some political meeting, and I ran into someone named Jim Elliott, who's a lovely Democrat, one of those lovely Democrats, and I mean it. He was so lovely, and his wife was just as lovely, if not lovelier. Like, these just lovely, kind, loving people, and very accepting of me. And we were all so mad at Trump. We were so mad at Trump. Rightfully so, right? Like, this horrible monster is speaking hatred. Like, what is going on, What are we doing as a country right now? We don't get this. This is not okay. And everybody's like, lock him up, right? Like, and I'm like, yeah. Knowing that if he gets locked up, it's not going to do anything. It's just, like, perpetuating the system. I was like, okay. So, with that being said, if we lock people up, what if we did something really, really productive? And I remember telling Jim Ellison this idea at the time, and he just sat there and he was like, probably thinking this girl is so naive, but instead he said something like, very kinder than that, and I'm pretty sure it reflected something like, oh, if only that could work. Like, but I think it could, I think it could. Like, let's try it. Let's try it out, where we just, like, we put people into cages, temporary cages, where they've, like, made real big mistakes that are dangerous and violent, and we're like, okay, we're really sorry that the structures of society have not done a good job at teaching you kindness and empathy, but here's a book. If you don't know how to read, comes in an audio version. If you do know how to read, you gotta read it. And if it doesn't work, here's another book. Here's another children's book. Here's another one. It's just like story after story. Just like, you guys want to force people into submission? Submit them to something that's, like, worthy. Empathy and love and kindness. And if they refuse, well, then obviously containment is necessary. But you guys, containment for what? Just so that we all end up in a big box, in a big cage. Teach courage. Teach people how to be brave and fiercely kind and fiercely loving. Like, teach that. We know how. Maybe not everybody. Maybe I just had the best talent in the world, like, teaching me at college. But, like, clearly there are a lot of ways and means and creative ideas on how we can do better. I've got one tiny one. It's like, here, like, make people read kind books, like loving kindness. Like, let's do it. And I understand why people would say that I'm a radical, and they might even say I'm inconsistent, because I got super violently angry last year, and I lost like all of that foundation that had been laid in the past, the good foundation. I like super lost it. It disappeared from me. It became completely elusive, and I lost my agency. I was incapable of being Lydia for about 3 months. And it got really, really, really dangerous for me. And I think I gave the perception to others that I was a danger to them too, and that makes sense. Like I was totally out of my mind and not making any sense, and I needed to be contained. Now, did I get any help when I was contained? Absolutely not. I got deeply traumatized and hurt. Now I'm healed. It was a very quick healing turnaround period. Why? Because I started reading. I started reading the correct book. The book that teaches all. The book that shows the path the clearest. Shows the proper path the most clearly out of any book that ever was written. So, and it was my time, it was time for me to start reading the Bible. I can't emphasize enough that until it's your time to start really sitting in and getting deep in this, you can't force other people. Why would never force people in a contained facility to read the Bible. That's psychotic. However, I was ready because I could see that I opened a portal, and now I know there's evil. I opened up a portal, and it's not like I had a shield anymore from being able to see the demonic realm. And that's pretty crazy. That's hard to go through or whatever, but I survived. Praise God, I survived. But I knew it was my time. But yeah, that's I guess that's my, you can't really talk about containment. You can't really talk about how to fix containment. You can't really have any super real opinion about it unless you get in it, and I thought I was in it from the periphery. I thought I was in all this as a social justice fighter, somebody who's out here fix the stuff that's broken. And I get that. And I was proud of myself during the times where I was organizing against all these injustices. Still proud of myself. But you don't really know, how bad it is unless you're on the inside of it. And I was. I went to jail. I was in a holding facility with the police. I was in the psychiatric hospital 3 times. And I sat through probation for a period of 6 months. So I'm qualified. Yay, I got my stamp of approval to start actually fucking making a difference. I'm giving it to myself. Oh boy. What is the most happy news of the entire book of the Bible? The happiest news is that God turns it around for good. He turns evil around for good. He just keeps doing it. No, my favorite story in the Old Testament is the story of Joseph. So let me just show you this pretty river first. Northern Michigan is like really good at its water systems. Got a lot of beautiful water systems. So, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob. So, Jacob becomes, is it Jacob whose name changes to Israel? Yeah. He has the 12 children who become the tribes of Israel. And those 12 brothers, they betray Joseph, sell him to slavery, and a whole lot of stuff happens. It's super fascinating. What a fascinating part of the Bible. But he, in the end of the story, like, there's redemption for the fact that his brothers did that to him, because he says, yeah, it was a pretty crazy, evil thing, and yet God turned it around for good. That was the whole plan all along. So, we don't have to be afraid of that. And I think that's what happens, is like people make really big mistakes, you know, like they murder someone, and they're super afraid of the consequences of what God will do. You know, but like, man, oh man, do you ever not need to be afraid of that? The beauty that can be created out of darkness is the only reason to be alive. It's the only reason. It's the only thing that can keep us really going on this dark planet, because like, otherwise, what are we doing? We're just giving our agency over to something that is so heinous and evil. It's very uncomfortable to be someone who admits your shortcomings, your sins, your mistakes of the past. It's super, super, super scary. And I understand. Do I ever? And a big privilege of mine would be, you know, helping people who have made mistakes. It would be a huge privilege and an honor to be someone who's safe in that, like, I will help inspire you, even if it's just from a distance. Like, I will be someone who can inspire you to say, I made a huge mistake. And I'm ready for the truth. So, do as I do, you know? Face it. And know that, like, the consequences on the other side are, you know, it's not like the powers that be, the correctional facilities, the psychiatric facilities, like the doctors. It's not like any of those people with authority, like, can be counted on for anything other than like perpetuating their own psychosis. You know, it's not like it's pretty. You can't just like expect that, like, oh, okay, I made a mistake and I'll tell the truth and now everything's easy. It's not. Super isn't. But if we want to change anything, if we want this world to change, we have to change ourselves. And the only way to change yourself is to say, my will and my design is insufficient. It's not working. So what is God's will? God's will is for you to tell the truth and for you to trust Him to take care of the rest. I can't imagine that statement is incorrect in any way. Can't imagine. Please come at me and tell me if I'm wrong. Who could disagree with that? Anyway, we're good. I guess that's enough. Thank you again for being here. I hope you feel something. Hope you feel something today. I certainly can't make you feel anything. I can't make anybody do anything. But if I can inspire, sign me up. Have a good day.